Funds India and CNBC-TV18 present Smart Moves, Smarter Money in association with CNBC Awaaz, CNBC Bajar.
Your investments work best when you plan them right, not with impulse, but with intent. Because wealth is not built overnight. It's built through discipline, trust, and the right partnership between human intelligence and digital precision. Hello and welcome to Funds India and CNBC TV18 present Smart Moves, Smarter Money. I'm Ridu Bhandari. In this episode, we explore how investors can make smarter, faster and more confident financial decisions, and how Funds India is evolving from being a digital investing platform to a full spectrum wealth destination that blends the power of technology with the warmth of human expertise. Joining me on the show today is Akshay Sapru, Group CEO of Funds India, the leader driving this transformation with a vision to making investing approachable, dependable and deeply personal for every Indian. Akshay, thank you so much for joining us here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks a ton, Ridu. Thanks for having us here and glad to be here.
First, congratulations are in order. Big milestone achieved, 20,000 crore rupees of assets under management.
Yes, we just
huge milestone. So congrats on that. And you have Westbridge Capital's backing. You've said before that this isn't just about scale, it's also about trust. So give us a sense of, where are you headed right now? How are you reimagining Funds India's journey and what's in store for the next couple of years?
Firstly, thanks for the 20,000 crores. Congratulations. But let me just tell you, that's just the start actually, Mridu. We're just sort of starting out. So Westbridge came on board in 2023. That's when the company really has done a pivot. All of us know about Viksit Bharat. It's going to be India's, next few decades are going to be India's, right? And as part of that journey, there's a lot which is going to happen in the ecosystem in India. There's going to be an explosion of firms and entities who are growing and growing well. New companies which will come forth, a lot of wealth which will get created, incomes will rise. And now a bridge needs to be created between people who have a surplus and who want to invest and these companies which are going to need capital for growth, right? So this is really how the story is going to play out. In all this, in the opportunity and in the chaos, how do you really make sense of all of this? How do you cut out the noise, connect the dots? And therefore, how do you become a bridge between the investor on one side and the companies on the other side? Finally, it is going to be about putting money in the right companies. This is where Funds India sees the role that it can play. This is where we are reimagining the company. So to capitalize and become a part of this whole nation building effort of a Viksit Bharat, we are looking at Funds India to be a full service wealth management company. When it started, it was a company which was largely a digital first mutual fund investing company. So more towards the first time investor and then graduating from there. But that pivot to now handling the full range of investors, right from a first time investor to an evolved HNI, which is our private wealth business, which is the latest launch that we have done.
Yeah.
And handling this through businesses which have our own RMs, or one of the large plays in India is going to be independent financial advisors. That's going to be a huge distribution channel. It already is, but it's going to grow further. So how do we handle and become a part of this journey through this entire cross section? Through these three different approaches is really what we are trying to do. But in terms of trying to give you a sense of what we want to be, I think 3 to 5 years from now, we want to be one of the largest non-bank distributors in this country. And I think we are well on course to do that.
Now, there are three verticals that you've built at this point in time. You have the D2C vertical, you have B2B, and you have private wealth, like you just said. So give us a sense of, how much of your business is coming through each of these verticals. Break down how distinct is the investor's need today when it comes to, viewing it from these three lenses.
How does an investor really get into the wealth management journey, right? So you have, and the same investor could show different behaviors at different points in time. Depending on the complexity of the decision that an investor has to take, they could just come onto an app and do it directly themselves, right? Or if it's getting a little more complex in terms of the kind of product or instrument they have to choose, or if the portfolio is larger, how do I allocate? Am I managing my risk correctly? There are a lot of new products coming in every day. Are they right for me? How do I pick and choose? Needs then starts to get a little more complex and starts to need a sort of a human advice to add to the decision-making process, right? I think what we are trying to do is one, so pivot it towards the customer. So we want the client or them to have the power to decide how they want to engage as part of the wealth management process. It could be directly, it could be through a private wealth RM, or it could be through a friends and family network, which is where the IFAs play a key role, right? So we want to leave the power of that engagement with the clients, but we want to be available in all the three forms. So a client, we are very happy to handle a client directly onto the platform where the client self-serves. We also have investment coaches which can help the client along that way, and we also have, in case the portfolio is actually getting more complex, we also have our private wealth team which can assist. The IFAs actually straddle both these extremes because they have clients both at a first level investor side or even large clients.
Yeah.
But how do we provide them a platform, research technology, which either enables them to self-serve or enables them to do this well through an assisted mode, which could be our private wealth RM, or it could be an IFA. That's really the design that we are trying to build. So three different business verticals, empowering the client to engage in a manner that they would want to engage with us.
Most wealth management companies are trying to go fully digital at this point in time, whereas you've chosen this approach of going digital but also having a physical presence. How has that really helped your growth journey? What's the thought process behind that? And do you believe that the Indian investor will always want some bit of a human touch, even if you have artificial intelligence feeding it?
As Indians, we like to have a physical presence. That's one part of the psychology of investing because that helps build trust. But that's the sort of emotional bit of it. But even rationally speaking, I think when you're building a distribution where you have private wealth RMs, where you have IFAs, you need to create a sort of a physical office presence across, because a lot of our focus will be on tier 2, tier 3 markets as well, right? We have studied customer behavior deeply. When it comes, as the decision making becomes complex, the need to interact with a human becomes very important. So you have to provide for both. It's never going to be purely digital. I think the insights or intelligence or the application of research and technology, the way a human, even clients want to engage with humans before they finally take a call, right? So I think we believe firmly that it is always going to be a combo of these two, and I think that's what we are preparing for, and that's what we are building out.
Give us a sense of what the larger brand philosophy is when it comes to FundsIndia, and any insights into the unique systems or processes that you've built to ensure that the investor really remains at the heart of it all. The
brand promise is that we will help you earn more while we are earning your trust. So the whole model is built around we will do what's right for the client. We will not get colored by, because we are a distributor, we have to resist the temptation of getting colored by what we could be earning on something, but it has to be what's right for the client. And therefore, building trust is going to be vital as we go along this journey, because it's both have to go hand in hand as we do what's right for them, help them choose what's best for them in terms of moving the power to them of the entire decision making. At the same time, also helping them choose what not to get into. The underlying sort of message or the adage that we use is that if you don't understand the risk of a product, please don't take it and don't buy it. So we'll help you understand the risk, but if it's not getting across, please do not get into that product at all. I think that's really the core of what we want to do.
Right. One of the famous frameworks that you have is the 5-finger framework. Unpack that a little bit for us and tell us how is that useful.
So the 5-finger framework basically picks up the squad of 11 that you need to be able to succeed on all kinds of pitches, whether you're playing at home or you're playing abroad. That's the kind of thing. That's what 5-finger does. Now, to translate it into sort of finance language, you typically have behaviors or patterns on which people try to invest, right? And the most common that we find is chasing performance. So I'll explain this with an example. If you ask anybody to pick a mutual fund to invest today, they will look at the last 1 year, 3 year track and say, okay, this is what I'm going to invest in. Now, the reality is, if you backtrack, and we have done this from 2008 onwards till now, and we have looked at mutual fund performance in 3-year cycles and 5-year cycles. The top quartile in a 3-year period in terms of returns, only 15 to 20% of those funds stay in the top quartile in the next 3 years. And this is now over almost 15 years of experience, right? So chasing performance is not going to be the answer. Now, how do you therefore really
What should
allocate
investors chase
where should investors chase, right? Which is what Five Finger tries to answer. So our research tells us that there are different types of investing styles. You know, we've heard about GARP, we have heard about value stocks, we have heard about contrarian bets, we have heard about suddenly people going for momentum, people going for mid caps and small caps. So the all-weather portfolio basically allocates your holdings across a sort of a weighted average mix of these, and then performance and track tells us that over cycles that mix actually outperforms the benchmark by 300 to 400 basis points in any 3-year cycle. Wow. So it's really, the trick is how are you prepared to handle, because different kinds of portfolios will work well in different kinds of markets, and having the right mix of these styles in your portfolio is really the trick. That's what the Five Finger sort of does. That's how the cricket team gets built, and that's how the returns get delivered. And this is not sort of back-tested data. This is actual data from for the last almost 7 to 8 years of how this mix has really performed.
Thank you for those insights. We are going to continue this conversation, but for now, we are going to head into a short break. After the break, we'll explore how Funds India's research-driven ecosystem is helping investors and partners make smarter, faster, and more confident decisions, and what this blend of data and empathy really means for India's growing investor base. Stay with us on CNBC TV18.
Funds India and CNBC TV18 present Smart Moves, Smarter Money in association with CNBC Awaz, CNBC Bajar. Funds India and CNBC TV18 present Smart Moves, Smarter Money in association with CNBC Awaz, CNBC Bajar.
Welcome back. You are watching Funds India and CNBC TV18 presents Smart Moves, Smarter Money. I'm in conversation with Akshay Sapru, Group CEO of Funds India. We've spoken about trust, vision and behavioral frameworks. Let's now move to the engine that powers all of this, data, research and the promise that turns technology into trust. Now, Akshay, you spoke earlier about, how Funds India has a very strong research backbone, and that's essentially perhaps a major ingredient of your secret sauce. Give us a sense of how this in-house research then translates into smarter, faster, more confident decision making for your investor. Any recent examples of clients that you can give us that have really brought this to life?
I think in Funds India, what the team has done is that once you've gathered the research and gathered the insights, how do you really identify patterns and apply the research to those patterns, because these patterns will keep sort of coming back. That's really the reality. So therefore, what the edge that it brings about, and why I'm saying frameworks are important, is because that's really the application of all this research, right? There are calls which we gave. For example, we saw the mid cap and the small cap crisis. I think we had called it out quite early that people need to move back to large caps. That's an example. We had given a call on gold very, very recently that it looks like it's really at the end of the curve, and it may not see the kind of returns. That's what we are sort of telling our clients about. Five Finger is a large one, because we've consistently, for the clients where we've been able to give this portfolio, we've been able to deliver almost 300 basis points for them above the benchmark, which is really the value that you bring in as an advisor, because otherwise, why should a client not go to a direct plan and just invest, right? Yeah. If you sort of come in as an advisor or as a distributor, what is the value that you bring on the table? So I think, how do you make your research proactive, which is how do you apply it to develop frameworks which are able to predict some changes in advance? I think that's really the key of how we are trying to build this. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is that, which is really the broader trends, right? After that, you have to take a decision on a specific fund or a specific stock. So how do you really look at valuations of those funds, those stocks, or even an instrument, right? I think that's what the research team's capability is. The larger point is that there is a method to the madness, and that method to the madness is paying off. The opportunity for us is now, with the kind of capital backing that we have, how do we make this impact reach a larger base of clients? Because the frameworks are good and they're working. But how do we really take that impact to a large base of clients out there? I think that's the journey that we are on. And of course, we keep sharpening these as we go along.
You know, India's investors have come a long way. If you look at the last decade or so, Mutual Funds Sahi Hai by Amphi was a brilliant campaign, spread a lot of awareness. You know, as a company at Funds India, how have you really hopped onto that wave and gone beyond just awareness to investor confidence?
I think Mutual Funds Sahi Hai has been a game changer as far as India is concerned, and it's not just about the fact that what it has done for the mutual funds industry. I think it has changed the whole behavior and introduced a large set of investors to a new form of investing, which is disciplined, which is return oriented, and which is very, very systematic. I think,
and also broken a lot of myths around investing.
Broken
in
a lot
the
of
markets,
myths
right?
around, and because you're using actually professionals to invest in the market, right? And because we were a fixed deposits country, right? We were not thinking beyond FDs, but we have broken that. I think now people are looking at capital markets, and mutual funds has given them a great route. We have seen a lot of discipline. I mean, the SIP volumes itself, we are talking close to about 30,000 crores a month now going in as SIPs, right? Yeah. We now, as Funds India, we want to elevate this question a little bit, and now I think it's come to a point where you start asking the question ki kaun sa mutual fund sahi hai? And this does not even apply just to mutual funds, and it's not that one mutual fund is bad or the other is not good, but for you,
what suits you?
What suits you? What works best for you? I think that is the question we now need to go into, because earlier the comparison was to an FD. But now that's not the case. Now investors are evolving to understand that, okay, there is a benchmark, which is the Nifty, or there's a Nifty 500. How is my portfolio doing versus them?
Yeah.
So now, what's my risk profile? So now I think you have to triangulate all of these. I think the next question is now, kaun sa mutual fund sahi hai? And that's the evolution step. And it can evolve to kaun sa AIF sahi hai, kaun sa PMS sahi hai for you. And I think that's the question that, Funds India and all the wealth managers like us, I think those are the questions that we have to help clients answer, I think.
Right,
that's the journey.
right, absolutely. So shifting gears to the business side of things, it is a hugely competitive field. So, technology, trust, transparency, those are the things investors are really looking for today. Now, on all of these and any other pillars that you want to add, how are you building your competitive edge? Why is Funds India better than all the others?
I think the difference really is in the approach that we are taking. I think the approach, and if I were to start answering this question, I would first go back to how we have defined the purpose for ourselves. I think that's important, because that sort of shapes everything else that we are doing. Our purpose is very clear, that as part of the Viksit Bharat story, how do we make an average Indian wealthier, which means we educate them on how can they get better returns than what they are doing. I think that's really what we want to do. That's the core of what we're trying to do. And we want to do this while we are earning their trust, as I said earlier. I think for us, these two things matter a lot. Now, everything else that we are trying to do is built around trying to answer the how of these two parts. The edge, of course, apart from the things that I spoke about, the research capability, the products, the platform, we are using a completely design thinking mode in order to see how to work our platforms, because we want to move the power to the consumer, or to an RM, right, of the entire decision making. But I think the other thing which will hold us in good stead is the kind of backing, apart from the capability that we have. I think the kind of backing that we are getting, Westbridge Capital, I spoke about already in terms of what they can add value to us in terms of our research and in terms of our capabilities. I think most importantly, if you want to do this the right way, this needs patience and patient capital. There are a lot of wealth managers out there, but I can give you plenty of examples where, because of the kind of pressure on profitability and on results, it's probably not doing what is entirely sort of customer centric, right? So the advantage will come from patient capital. I think we have that. The advantage will come from alignment, which is between Westbridge and us. There is complete alignment on how we build this. And of course, everything else is a sort of a stepping stone in that direction on what capability, what technology, what platforms we build. I think just sticking to this core purpose, I think that itself is what we feel will give us the edge, because that's how trust will get built. I think that's what we are working on.
Give us a sense of how at Funds India you are really empowering your B2B partners because they are also a large part of the ecosystem. How are they growing with confidence in a very fast changing landscape of the financial industry today?
So if we really look at the B2B partners or the IFAs, historically they've been limited to distributing mutual funds. That's what really has played out for them. I think so the edge that we will give or we aspire to give them is 2 or 3-fold. Look, at the end of the day, an IFA is not very different from how I would want a private wealth RM to engage with a client, because that's essentially the role that they are also doing, right? The entire research capability that we spoke about, the kind of experience that they are able to give their clients on the apps or the platforms, the kind of information, the kind of insights, new products that we are helping them with. So mutual fund sort of selection is, on one part of it. The 5-finger strategy, we are seeing a good uptake on that. But then how do we now start evolving and working with them on the newer products? How do we get them introduced to PMFs, AIFs, private structures is really the evolution. And that's what we are seeing a lot of response from them on, because that's what now they want to get into. And of course, they're really liking the platform experience and the frameworks with which we are helping them to take decisions. So whatever we are making available to an internal RM is exactly the empowerment that we are giving to an IFA. I don't think we are distinguishing in that sense. And because the experience of the IFA and the experience of the end client is going to be important for this model to work, I think that's really going to be the key, and that's what we are trying to work on.
And finally, moving beyond numbers, milestones, what is your larger vision for Funds India when it comes to, transforming India, adding to its financial inclusion story? You've spoken about Viksit Bharat, but larger wealth creation for Indians. What is your vision over the next 10 years?
We are well versed with the definition of universal banks, the large universal banks, right? I think we are driving a vision at Funds India of how do we become a large universal wealth manager in this country. The entire financial planning journey, Mridu, is actually a continuum. You start with financial literacy, you go into first levels of financial planning, wealth creation, wealth management, then you go into sort of legacy planning. I think we have a template and a model to address all of this. We want to be an impact player across this entire value chain. And a big part of the Viksit Bharat story, both in terms of size, because that's how you will be able to create impact, and in terms of the value which we bring to the end clients, as well as the sort of partners that we have along the value chain. I think that's really it. Become a large and impact player of the Viksit Bharat story. Maybe top five distributors in this country in the next maybe 5 to 7 years. That's the first ambition.
And we wish you all the very best for that.
Thank you so very much. Thanks, and looking forward to that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing those incredible insights with us today. Well, the big takeaway is that future of investing will always be shaped by 2 things: trust and discipline. Technology can simplify the journey, but it's the right advice and consistent behavior that will truly help us build wealth over time. Thank you so much for joining us on Funds India and CNBC TV18 present Smart Moves, Smarter Money. I'm Mridu Bhandari, reminding you that smart investing isn't about timing the market. It's about staying the course with clarity and confidence. Until next time, thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Funds India and CNBC TV18 present Smart Moves, Smarter Money in association with CNBC Awaz, CNBC Bajar.